We're now entering our guided practice segment, grammar focus, to have verb. So grammar rule. So we're talking about to have verb, el verbo tener. Grammar rule is use have for subjects. For example, I have, you have, we have, they have. So we're talking about you have for subjects using have. Or when you use have, what subjects are we using? Then followed by the verb have. Then we have has. So has, so he has, she has, it has. So those are the grammar rules. So take into account that I is first person. I es decir, yo, que es primera persona. Yo tengo. So I have, yo tengo. You is second person. You is segunda persona. You have. And then we, es decir, nosotros tenemos. We have. They, es decir, ellos, que es tercera persona, ellos tienen. So going back to we is also first person. Why is it first person? Because you're including yourself in it. We, whenever you include yourself as part of the subject, that is first person. So I and we are both first person. The difference is I is singular and we is plural. La diferencia entre yo y nosotros es que yo en inglés I es singular y nosotros, we, es plural. Pero las dos son primera persona porque se incluye uno mismo. So in those cases, both cases, we use have. I have, we have. And then you have has. So when we have third person singular, cuando es tercera persona y singular, es decir, él, en inglés es he has, es decir, él tiene. She has, ella tiene. And then it is also third person and singular. It has. Eso tiene. It has. Tercera persona y singular. So those are the grammar rules using have and has, also known as to have verb. Okay, so we're using two particular verbs, have and has, identifying when to use it, whether it be in a sentence or in the form of a question. We're going to see examples in sentences and also examples in questions. Entonces vamos a ver ejemplos, son todos de cómo se utiliza la palabra have y has en forma de oración y forma de pregunta. So here are some examples. So I have a notebook. I have a notebook. Yo tengo un cuaderno. Yo tengo un cuaderno. I have a notebook. You have English class. You have English class. So once again, it's second person. So you use have, followed by the subject you. Usted tiene clase de inglés. We have math today. We have math today. Nosotros tenemos matemáticas hoy. So we have math today. They have science after lunch. They have science after lunch. Ellos tienen ciencias después de almuerzo. They have science after lunch. I have PE tomorrow. I have PE tomorrow. Yo tengo educación física mañana. Yo tengo educación física mañana. Okay, so notice all sentences include have, because just like we talked about in the previous slide, when you have the subject I, you, we, they, I again. So I is mentioned twice. You use have, and have. So I have, you have, we have, they have. And then once again, I have. Okay. So those examples on how to use have in form of a sentence. Now let's take a look at has. So we talked about has is used when the subject is third person. Has se utiliza cuando el sujeto es tercera persona y singular. So he has a backpack. Él tiene una mochila. She has a pencil. She has a pencil. Ella tiene un lápiz. The teacher has a computer. The teacher has a computer. El maestro tiene una computadora. My school has a library. My school has a library. Mi escuela tiene una biblioteca. The classroom has 30 desks. The classroom has 30 desks. El salón de clases tiene 30 escritorios. So here we're using the verb has. And notice that each subject in these 5 sentences is third person and singular. En cada oración, el sujeto es tercera persona y singular. He, she, the teacher, my school, the classroom. They're all third person and singular. So we use has in that form. Entonces, en cada oración en esta página, el sujeto es tercera persona y singular. Entonces, nos corresponde utilizar el verbo has, que en español es tiene. Has. Okay? So that is part of our guided practice. So now we're saying have and has in form of a sentence. Now let's take a look at questions. Vamos a ver ahora preguntas. ¿Cómo se utiliza este verbo en forma de preguntas? Let's take a look. Do you have a notebook? So that should be corrected to a notebook. All right. Do you have a notebook? You could also, it's another question would be, does your teacher, this has to be corrected as well. Does your teacher have a computer? Does your teacher have a computer? So again, use have when the subject of the question is third person and singular. Your teacher will be the subject, have will be the verb. Does your teacher have a computer? In the previous question, the subject was notebook. Do you have a notebook? Actually, it's you. Do you have a notebook? So you is the subject, and it is second person. So when you use you, we have to use have. And also take into account how the question is initiated. When you use you as a subject, you have to initiate the question with do. Do you have a notebook? And then the second question, does your teacher have a computer? So here in these examples, this will also be in the quiz. Esto también va a estar en la prueba. Entonces, cuando inician las preguntas, tomen en cuenta cuál es el sujeto de la pregunta. You have to take into account which word is the subject of the question in order to know how to initiate the question. So in this case, when the subject is you initiate with do. When it's third person singular, you initiate with does. So I'm going to correct these as well. Just give me a moment while I make this correction. Do you have a notebook? Does your teacher have a computer? That should be your. And then we move on to the next question. Does Maria have science today? Does Maria have science today? Entonces aquí estamos preguntando si María tiene ciencias hoy. So here, when the subject is Maria, the name of a person, is third person and singular, you initiate the question with does. Does Maria have science today? We're still using our verb have. Entonces todavía nos toca utilizar el verbo tener o tiene. And does Maria have science today? ¿Tiene María ciencias hoy? So let me correct this as well. Do you have a notebook? Does your teacher? And then do they have music today? Oops. Sorry about that. All right. So next question reads, do they have music today? Do they have music today? So here, when the subject is they, the subject is third person and plural. So do they have music today? Ellos tienen música hoy? So do they? So again, take into account how you initiate the question. When the subject is plural and third person, you have to initiate do. And followed by the subject is the verb have. Do they have music today? Ellos tienen música hoy? Ellos tienen música hoy? So do, you have to initiate the question before the subject they, followed by the verb have. Okay, next will be, let me go on to the next one. So let me make that correction once again. I apologize for the inconvenience. You have a notebook, and then this one should be your teacher. So I apologize for that error. We're correcting it as we go. Next question. Do we have lunch at 12 o'clock? Do we have lunch at 12 o'clock? Nosotros tenemos almuerzo a las 12 en punto. So remember, we talked about interpreting the clock in the last class, in class number 14. 12 o'clock, 12 en punto. Nosotros tenemos almuerzo a las 12 en punto. Do we have lunch at 12 o'clock? So here we have we as the subject. So when we initiate, when the subject of the question is we initiate the question with do. Do we have lunch at 12 o'clock? Entonces, cuando el sujeto es we, en la pregunta, tenemos que iniciar la pregunta con do. Do we have lunch at 12 o'clock? Nosotros tenemos almuerzo a las 12 en punto. Entonces, no está esta regla de gramática en español, pero sí existe y tenemos que aplicarla en el lenguaje de inglés. Tenemos que tomar en cuenta cuál es el sujeto y eso determina si nos toca utilizar do o does. Tome en cuenta que estamos iniciando con does, do, does, do. Entonces, do you, cuando el sujeto es you, iniciamos con do. Cuando el sujeto es nombre de una persona, María, nos toca usar does. Cuando el sujeto es we, que es sujeto y primera persona, cuando es primera persona, nos incluimos nosotros mismos, es primera persona y plural, so do es la palabra que nos toca. Your teacher es tercera persona, entonces does. And they, cuando el sujeto es plural y tercera persona, nos toca utilizar do. So, do they, do we, do you. Ahí tenemos esas tres ocasiones que nos toca usar do. Do you, do they, do we. Okay, and then for does, es tercera persona, does your teacher or does Maria. So let's take a look at the last example. I mean, once again, correct this. I apologize. Do you have a notebook? And then there should be, does your teacher have a computer? All right, so do I have a new schedule? Do I have a new schedule? Yo tengo un nuevo horario. Tengo yo un nuevo horario. So tengo yo un nuevo horario is do I have a new schedule? Do I have a new schedule? So when the subject is I, you also initiate the question with do. So now you have do you, do we, do they, do I. So do I have a new schedule? Tengo yo un nuevo horario. Entonces tómese en cuenta cuando el sujeto es you, we, they, and I. Do, and do. Do you, do we, do they, do I. Entonces, very important that we remember that key, that information, because that will be on the quiz. Ese detalle sí va a estar en el examen, en la prueba, de cómo formar y escribir preguntas según el sujeto de la pregunta. So keep that in mind. We will be tested. This will also be in WIDA también. Lo tomamos en cuenta en esta lección porque va a estar en el examen de WIDA también. That will also be tested, included in your WIDA exam. That's what we're learning in this lesson. That's why it will be in the quiz at the end of the lesson, and because it's coming up in the WIDA exam. Okay. Va a estar en la prueba, el examen de WIDA, que nosotros estamos preparando. Nos estamos preparando para tomar el examen de WIDA, que es el examen nacional aquí en los Estados Unidos para comprobar el inglés de estudiantes que aprenden un nuevo lenguaje. All right, so now those are our questions. Esas son nuestras preguntas using have in form of a question. Now let's take a look at conversations. Now we're going to look, we've talked about sentences using have, sentences using has, and then questions using have. Now let's put it all together now. Vamos a ponerlo todo juntos para hacer un diálogo, una conversación. This is between two students. So Carlos will initiate the conversation saying, "Hi, Anna. Do you have English class today?" So remember, we're talking about being at school. Estamos hablando de estando en la escuela. Entonces, un ambiente de estando en la escuela. So a conversation between two students being at school. Excuse me. So, "Hi, Ana. Do you have English class today?" Es decir, "Hola, Ana. ¿Tienes clase de inglés hoy?" So Ana, she responds saying, "Yes, I have English in first period. What about you?" Sí, tengo inglés en la primera hora. ¿Y usted? Carlos responds, the conversation continues, the dialogue continues. "I have math first. Does your teacher have a computer?" Primero tengo matemáticas. ¿Su maestra tiene una computadora? Anna responds saying, "Yes, she has a computer in our classroom." Sí, ella tiene una computadora en nuestra aula o nuestro salón de clase. Aula también se puede interpretar como classroom en inglés. Carlos, do you have science today? ¿Tienes clase de ciencias hoy? Carlos is asking Anna. Anna responds saying, "Yes, I have science after lunch." Sí, tengo ciencias después del almuerzo. And then Carlos says, "Great, I have science too." Genial, yo también tengo ciencias. So the students are having conversations about their schedule, their school schedule, when they have class, and what class they have in the first period, what class they have in after lunch, which is science, and then ask one student is asking another to this if the teacher has a computer in their classroom. So this is a conversation, common topics and themes that are discussed in the school. All right, so this is a conversation dialogue. Students, there will be two students that will play these two roles. One student will be Carlos, another student will be Ana. It'll be student A and student B, or Carlos and Ana, two students. They will play roles. And then what I would like for students to do after they complete the conversation dialogue is to rotate rows as for everyone to have the opportunity to ask questions and to answer them. Entonces, vamos a comenzar con dos estudiantes, cada uno va a ser Carlos, otro estudiante va a ser Ana, van a leer el diálogo completamente y después que terminen la conversación van a reemplazarse de asuntos de personajes. En quien fue Carlos le toca ser Ana y pues quien fue Ana le toca ser Carlos. Entonces van a hacer rotación para que todos tengan la oportunidad de iniciar preguntas y contestar preguntas. And then remember, where you're learning how to use the verb have. Take into account the subject of the question. For example, in the first question, do you have? Notice the subject is you, and the verb is have, and it's initiated with do. Okay, then you respond with I have, and then you continue the conversation. Just take into account the subject, and then if you initiate the question with does or do. So remember, we're studying English. Remember how to initiate the questions because this will be on the quiz and this will be on the WIDA test. Okay, so once you complete the conversation dialogue, you will move on to the next slide. So Ana, see you in science class. Nos vemos en la clase de ciencias. And then that's when the conversation concludes. Okay, so there'll be it's 8 rows in total, 4 for each participating student. And then rotate turns. If you want more practice, you're more than welcome to find a different partner. That way you could have a variety and then continue practicing. Because that's our conversation dialogue. Also, I will also include a speaking practice in addition to the dialogue. I would like for students to make it more authentic. Vamos a hacerlo más auténtico, no solo vamos a leer una conversación, pero vamos a practicar nuestra propia conversación. So you will be practicing your speaking with a partner, asking these 6 questions. So these 6 questions, do you have a notebook? And you can respond yes or no. But here I purposely put a response. Yes, I do. Obviously, if you don't have a notebook, you can respond, no, I don't. But just be as authentic as possible. Here's the purpose is to practice real life questions with real life responses. Entonces, la idea de este ejercicio es que inicie las preguntas, asuntos de casos reales con respuestas reales. Entonces, anteriormente era una conversación que ya fue escrita entre 2 diferentes estudiantes. Ahora ustedes van a ser estudiante que va a iniciar la pregunta con un compañero que le conteste. Y después van a hacer rotación. Then you will rotate turns. Whoever your partner will be now initiating the questions and you'll be responding. Okay. So that's for you, the students, to practice in the classroom, to practice in the study hall, or practice at home with a partner, study in the classroom. It's important that we make it as authentic as possible. Lo importante es que hagamos el inglés más auténtico y real posible. Más auténtico, más personal se va a sentir, más relevante va a estar a su vida personal. All right, so let's make it as relevant and as authentic as possible because it's very important because we need to live English. English doesn't stay within four walls in the classroom. You have to take it with you. Wherever you go, English goes with you. So that's why it's important that we live and experience the English language. Por eso es importante que vivamos el lenguaje de inglés. El inglés no se queda entre las cuatro paredes en el salón de clase. El inglés los tiene que llevarlo con ustedes. Donde quiera que ustedes van, usted se tiene que llevar el inglés. Sea en la escuela, sea en el trabajo, sea en la comunidad, sea en la casa, en el hogar. Donde ustedes van, llévese con usted el inglés que ustedes han aprendido. So continue moving forward in English. That's why we're making this speaking practice segment, so you can practice living and experiencing the English language. Okay, so that is our speaking practice segment of our guided practice. Okay, that's for you to read out loud and to practice with a partner. Now here's our guided practice of grammar focus using have and has in form of a sentence. So grammar vocabulary, fill in each blank using a word from the word bank. In this guided practice exercise, there are only two words in the word bank, have and has. The one we just went over in our guided practice. Use these words to fill in the missing space. Again, I invite teachers to pause the video to give students the opportunity to fill in the missing spaces independently. That way, once you come about and continue the video, we will go over the answers as a class. Also, teachers, I invite you to call on 8 different students to share their answers with the class. You could also do a parent share. They could also, students could, before they share their classes with the entire class, they could share it with a partner, one-on-one, see if they have the same responses, or if they want to teach and support one another and see why they chose a particular answer. One student could explain to the other student why the answer is correct or why the answer needs to be corrected. They could learn and proceed and develop the English language together. Entonces, estudiantes, lo que pueden hacer también antes que yo comparta las respuestas es completar este ejercicio independientemente. Y después que llenan los espacios vacíos independientemente, comparte sus respuestas con un compañero y explique por qué la respuesta es correcta. Una cosa es compartir sus respuestas, es otra enseñarlo. Cuando ustedes los estudiantes están en una posición de enseñar, es cuando ustedes están aprendiendo y desarrollando aún más, porque usted está explicando por qué su respuesta es correcta. Y ahí es cuando está aprendiendo la razón. Entonces, cuando está razonando, está enseñando. Cuando está enseñando, está desarrollando. Entonces, eso es lo importante, eso queremos hacer. Queremos desarrollar el lenguaje de inglés. We want to develop the English language. That is why we need to put our students in a teaching position. Always look for ways and methods to put our students in a teaching position so they can develop the English language. The more they share, the more they teach, the more they will develop. All right. So go ahead and pause the video if you haven't already, and then we'll proceed to go over the 8 sentences using have or has. All right. If you're continuing, I am relying on you that you have already completed the exercise, and we will proceed. I will go over the answers, and I'll also share with you Teachers Pay Teachers, JuanCarlosESL, where you can find this exercise. All right, so let's go ahead and proceed with our lesson presentation. So fill in the blank using have or has verb. So I blank a backpack. I blank a backpack. Remember, just like we did in the warm-up, we are to use the context clues and apply the logic. So also here we have to take into account the verb have or has. We talked about it a moment ago in previous slides regarding the subject. So when our subject is I, that will determine whether we use have or has. So when our subject is I, we would use I have. I have a backpack. Yo tengo una mochila. So when the subject is I, we have to use have. I have a backpack. Number 2, she has a notebook. She has a notebook. So when the subject is third person singular, we have to use has. Cuando el sujeto es tercera persona y singular, ella, en inglés es she has. Nos toca usar has. She has, ella tiene. She has a notebook. Ella tiene un cuaderno. Number 3, we blank math class today. We blank math class today. So what did we say when the subject is we? And we said that it is first person. You're including yourself as part of the subject because we, nosotros. We is first person, but plural. Es plural y tercera persona because you're talking about 2 or more people, including yourself. We have math class today. So just like first person I, we have to use have. First person we also have to use have. We have math class today. Nosotros tenemos clase matemáticas hoy. We have math class today. Number 4, he blank a pencil. He blank a pencil. He has a pencil. Él tiene un lápiz. He has a pencil. Él tiene un lápiz. So when the subject is third person and singular, cuando el sujeto es tercera persona y singular, él, es decir, que nos toca utilizar o le corresponde el verbo has. Tiene. Él tiene un lápiz. He has a pencil. Number 5, they blank English in the first period. They blank English in the first period. They have English in the first period. Es decir, ellos tienen inglés en el primer periodo, en la primera hora. Okay, they have English in the first period. So when the subject is plural and third person, we also have to use have as our verb. Entonces aquí tenemos el verbo have porque el sujeto es plural y tercera persona. Ellos. Ellos tienen inglés en el primer periodo, en la primera hora. They have. They have English in the first period. Number 6, my teacher blank a computer. My teacher blank a computer. My teacher has a computer. Mi maestro o mi maestra tiene una computadora. So third person and singular, has. My teacher has a computer. You blank a class schedule. You have a class schedule. Usted tiene un horario de clase o clases. You have a class schedule. Usted tiene un horario de clases. You is second person. And you es decir, usted, que es segunda persona. Y nos toca utilizar have cuando es segunda persona y singular. So you remember you could be plural or it could be singular. Depending on who your audience is, you could be speaking to only one person. You have a class schedule. That could be one person in front of you that you're talking to. So that makes it singular. Or you could be plural. You could be speaking to entire auditorium of students. You have a class schedule. So it could be everyone in the auditorium referring to you, and that could be plural. Entonces, depende de quién su audiencia es, determina si you es singular o plural. Puede ser una sola persona que está enfrente de usted, o puede ser una audiencia de estudiantes que usted está hablando desde un púlpito, diciéndole que todos ustedes tienen un horario de clases. Entonces, puede ser singular o plural el sujeto you, usted o ustedes. En inglés solo es you. You puede ser singular o puede ser plural. So you have a class schedule. Regardless whether it's singular or plural, you still have to use have. Sea singular o sea plural el sujeto you, todavía le corresponde utilizar have como su verbo. You have a class schedule. All right, number 8. The school blank a library. The school blank a library. The school has a library. La escuela tiene una biblioteca. The school has a library. So third person, singular, only talking about one school. So it's singular. Third person, it's talking about a place. So we have to use has as our verb, as our to have verb. The school has a library. Okay, so those are our 8 sentences and our guided practice grammar focus exercise. So I will invite students to read out loud these 8 sentences and also understand why the verb is have or has due to the subject. So we have I have, she has, we have, he has, they have, my teacher has, you have, the school has. So repeating that segment, the subject of the sentence will help you remember which subject corresponds to which verb. Leyendo en voz alta el sujeto y el verbo, esas frases repetidamente le van a ayudar a recordar cuál verbo le corresponde a cuál sujeto. I have, she has, we have, he has, they have, my teacher has, you have, the school has. So repeat it regularly before taking the quiz and obviously before taking the WIDA exam. So that way it'll be fresh in your minds and you will become experts using the to have verb. Así van a convertirse expertos en cómo utilizar el verbo tener en inglés, que es decir have and has, cuando se utiliza cada uno en el lenguaje de inglés. Utilícelo repetidamente. All right, so I also want to share with you the guide practice exercise in a handout, a printable format. So give me a moment while I look for it, and I will share it with you. So guide practice. All right, so here's the guided practice exercise we just went over in our lesson presentation. Again, you will have your opportunity to put your name up above. Students, we put with first and last name, starting with a capital letter, followed by lowercase, and then your last name you initiate with the capital letter and then followed by lowercase letters. Entonces, estudiantes, cuando ponen su primer nombre y apellido, acordémonos de siempre iniciar con una letra mayúscula, pues las letras siguientes minúsculas, y después su apellido lo va a iniciar con una letra mayúscula, y después las siguientes letras minúsculas. Then you will put the date when you're completing the guided practice exercise. Entonces van a poner la fecha cuando están haciendo la práctica de guianza. So this is JuanCarlosESL, lesson Newcomers, lesson 15, at school and to have verb, guided practice. So this includes both grammar and vocabulary. Fill in each blank using a to have verb from the word bank. And then the word bank has have or has, just like we saw in the lesson presentation. We see here, and there are the same 8 sentences that we practice using in the lesson presentation we have in this handout. So it also includes the answer key that we just went over. It's copyrighted 2026 JuanCarlosESL, all rights reserved. Answer key are included in the second page of this printable guide practice handout. So making it easier. I invite teachers to print out the guided practice to give students the opportunity to handwrite their responses. Estudiantes, le estoy aconsejando a sus maestros que impriman esta hoja de práctica de guianza para que tengan la oportunidad de escribir sus respuestas. No solamente declarar sus respuestas por medio de la computadora, pero más efectivo que lo escriban con su mano, usando lápiz o bolígrafo o pluma, para que se acuerden más lo que uno escribe comparando nomás teclando. Okay. Importante que de verdad aprendan el lenguaje. Uno puede aprender más escribiendo el lenguaje comparando nomás escribiendo teclando. Quiere escribirlo con la mano usando un lápiz o pluma. But of course, if you have the option to do it computer-based as well, it's totally optional to do computer-based, but I strongly recommend that you do handwritten responses. Make it a printable exercise for students to write the responses. And this will be found in Teachers Pay Teachers, JuanCarlosESL. Okay, all the same 8 sentences we went over the lesson presentation. You will find here in this handout, including the answer key. Okay, so that is our guided practice for lesson number 15. JuanCarlosESL, Newcomers, lesson 15 at school and to have verb guided practice. All right, now let's go back